Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Our mission, as always, is to take that complex pile of research, the market reports, all the insider notes, and really just distill the strategic truth for you. And today we are deep diving into the global auto industry. Specifically, a partnership so dramatic that, the press is already calling it the strategic Santa Alianza.
The Holy Alliance.
Exactly. Between two historic rivals in Europe, we're talking about Ford, the quintessential American automotive giant,
Right.
and Renault, which is just the bedrock of French manufacturing. Okay, let's unpack this. Why would these two companies, who have, completely different histories, different cultures of motoring, and have competed for decades, why would they suddenly join forces?
And in such an intimate way. This isn't just, some cross-marketing deal.
No, this is platform sharing, factory utilization. They're basically committing their European futures to each other.
It's a move entirely born of what we can only describe as existential terror. And that's really the focus of this deep dive, understanding the specific urgent threat that forced them together.
And it's capitulation, really.
That's what it is, yeah. What it reveals about the state of the entire European EV market right now. And you don't have to guess at the stakes. The sources we've looked at are crystal clear. Ford CEO Jim Farley, he was pretty blunt when justifying the partnership. He described the situation as a fight for our lives and our industry.
Wow. When the leader of Ford uses that kind of language, the competition is just fundamentally different from anything they've ever seen before.
It is.
And the data, it shows exactly who that competition is. We're talking about the rapid expansion of Chinese brands.
Companies like BYD, Chang'an, XPeng, names that a few years ago were barely a footnote in Europe.
And now they're a massive structural threat.
The expansion is breathtaking. The sources show that Chinese EVs captured 6.7% of the entire European market in just the third quarter of this year.
And 6.7% might not sound like a huge number to some people, but you have to look at where those sales are actually hitting.
Exactly. That's the key. That 6.7% isn't spread across, expensive luxury cars.
No, it's concentrated right in the entry-level and compact segments. Precisely where Ford and Renault used to make all their money.
Precisely. The sheer scale of Chinese manufacturing means they can offer these competent, feature-rich vehicles at prices that are they're completely unprofitable for the established European players.
So this is a price war.
It's a war fought on pricing, on vertical integration, and factory efficiency. It's not just about who has the fanciest touchscreen anymore. If you lose that entry-level customer today, you've lost the mass market for the next 20 years.
And the sources really, really highlight why Ford specifically is in crisis mode. This alliance, it feels like a desperate lifeline for their European operations.
Oh, the numbers were just stark. They show the urgency. Ford's passenger car market share in Europe it's just plummeted.
What was it? It was at 6.1% back in 2019, which was decent.
Right, respectable. But it has dropped catastrophically to just 3.3% in the first 10 months of this year.
That is a massive loss of footing. That's the sound of customers just walking away.
It is, and you can see the consequences. The restructuring has been brutal. 4,000 job cuts in Germany in 2024, another 1,000 just a few months ago.
And the shutdown of their Saarlouis plant, which is hugely symbolic. That's just corporate pain on a massive scale.
What's fascinating here is Ford's public admission about its own EV development. They basically had a mea culpa.
Right, they'd spent billions on this U.S.-centric platform.
Billions. Designed for big, profitable American vehicles, thinking they could, maybe shrink it down for Europe.
Turns out you can't.
Exactly. They found their own American architecture was, and this is a quote, too big and expensive for the competitive European landscape.
So the whole thing was just incompatible.
Fundamentally, European drivers, they need smaller, more efficient cars. Parking is tight. Electricity costs are high. Ford's big platform it couldn't work.
Yeah.
And that failure forced them to admit they needed an external solution. And that led them straight to Renault.
That's just a remarkable admission. The company that invented mass production had to admit a rival had a cheaper, better solution. So let's get into the details of that solution, announced in December 2025. And it's really crucial to stress this is an industrial alliance.
Right, not a merger. The sources are very clear on this. They explicitly ruled out any kind of merger or taking equity stakes in each other.
And that decision seems critical.
It is. It means they both keep their independence, their brand identity, but they share the immense financial burden of developing this new tech. They're allies only where it really, really counts.
Which is on cost.
Which is on cost.
So the agreement focuses on two main areas. First, passenger vehicles. That's the main battleground.
Hmm.
They're planning 2 compact EVs.
Right, targeting that affordable segment. These will be smaller than anything Ford currently sells in the U.S.
The direct competition for those Chinese models. And the really unusual detail here is how they're doing it. Ford designs it.
Ford handles the design, the customer-facing stuff, but Renault handles the manufacturing. These new cars will be built at Renault's very advanced electricity factory in northern France.
And they'll be using the architecture from Ampere, Renault's EV division. In fact, Ford's CEO called the Ampere platform more competitive. So what makes it so much better?
It's a few key things that just cut costs at the root. First is standardization. Ampere focused heavily on standardizing components across different models. That drives down parts cost.
Okay.
Second, the factory itself. Electricity is a dedicated EV hub, so it gets all the benefits of industrial focus, scale, just lower costs all around. Ford is essentially leasing that access instead of paying to build it themselves.
So Ford gets a ready-made, affordable skeleton for its car without the multi-billion-dollar price tag.
Exactly.
And the target date for these cars to hit showrooms is 2028. That 3-year timeline feels, that feels like a drop-dead date for their competitiveness.
Oh, it absolutely is a strategic deadline. It gives them enough time for testing, regulatory approval, and so on. But it also sends a signal to the market. By 2028, we will be ready to fight on price.
And Renault's CEO, Francois Provost, he really drove that home, didn't he?
He did. His quote just perfectly captures the mood. He said, "The Chinese will come soon, and that's why I don't want to wait." This is a profoundly proactive defensive strategy.
And beyond passenger cars, they're also looking at commercial vehicles.
Right, the LCVs, light commercial vans, the backbone of trade and delivery in Europe.
And this is where Ford feels they have a real advantage to push.
Yeah, Ford is traditionally very strong in the LCV segment. By joining forces, they want to create what Farley called an LCV powerhouse in Europe that would be incredibly difficult for Chinese brands to break into.
So let's analyze this strategic logic.
Mm.
For Renault, what's the big game? They're Europe's smallest mainstream automaker. They don't have a big presence in the US or China.
So they desperately need scale. This partnership delivers that, immediately. It lets them max out their factories, like electricity, making sure those huge investments actually pay off. It just brings down the per unit cost of development.
And for Ford, the benefit is just pure cost avoidance and time. They're still juggling combustion engines back home, other EV platforms.
Right, so this just eases the financial pressure in Europe and lets them fill that huge gaping hole in their lineup. A small, affordable, competitive EV.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. They're sharing the bones of the car, but Ford is adamant about keeping its brand identity. They keep saying their cars will have that distinct Ford character.
Which sounds like a bit of a marketing challenge. If you're sharing the chassis, the batteries, the motors, how different can it really be?
Well, that's the key question, and the answer seems to be in tuning and software. The core architecture is shared, but Ford will spend its R&D on the things that define the driving experience.
Suspension tuning, steering feel.
The connectivity software, all of that, they want it to feel like a Ford, even if it runs on Renault bones.
Yeah.
That's the modern challenge, right?
Right.
Making a standard platform feel unique.
And we have to remember, this isn't Ford's only partnership like this. This new Renault deal runs alongside their existing one with Volkswagen.
Oh, that's a good point. They already build EVs on a VW platform, and they do vans with VW. So why add Renault to the mix? Does that mean the VW deal isn't enough?
I think it suggests the cost crisis is so severe that no single partnership is enough. The VW arrangement solved one part of the puzzle, but it didn't give them a truly low-cost, compact EV quickly enough to fight the Chinese threat.
So the Renault deal is aimed squarely at that budget-conscious mass-market customer. It's strategic diversification of risk.
Exactly.
So we connect this to the bigger picture. This whole alliance, it just validates this monumental trend, doesn't it? That the major transformation of the auto industry, it can't be done alone.
No company can do it alone anymore, not even the century-old giants. You need these targeted, specific alliances to get the scale you need to be competitive, let alone profitable.
And Renault's broader strategy really shows that global pressure. The Ford deal is just one piece of this huge defensive web they're spinning.
It is. They're aggressively seeking partnerships everywhere. They have plans to build cars in Brazil using platforms from China's Geely.
So they're not just fighting the Chinese, they're cooperating with them in other parts of the world.
Right. To learn their secrets of scale, it just shows how completely the rules of the game have changed. Ultimately, though, this partnership with Ford is the crucial test case for European manufacturing.
And the Renault CEO, Provost, He framed it that way, didn't he? As more than just a business deal.
He did. He sees it as an industrial and almost a political statement. His final quote really summarizes that ambition. He said, "Our ambition is to show that in Europe we can produce EV cars in Europe as competitively as anyone, including the Chinese."
Wow, so this alliance is really a high-stakes bet to prove European manufacturing can survive this global price war.
That's what it comes down to.
So to summarize the key takeaway for you, the listener, this is the era of survival packs. Ford and Renault, once fierce rivals, are using platform sharing and joint production as a defense mechanism. They've set this critical 2028 deadline to prove they can match the cost structures of their new Chinese competitors. But the big question this whole deep dive raises, for me, is about strategic dependence. I mean, given Ford lost billions trying and failing to make its own platform work for Europe, will outsourcing its future to a rival be enough? Especially against a competitor that Ford's own CEO admits is currently superior on cost and capacity. That is a powerful thought to chew on as this global automotive map just keeps redrawing itself. A very powerful thought. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the high-stakes world of automotive alliances. We hope this has given you a much clearer, more comprehensive view of the strategic plays being made right now. If you appreciate getting this kind of quick, strategic insight, directly from the source material, be sure to follow the channel. It's the best way to stay well-informed and make sure you don't miss our future deep dives. Thank you again for listening, and we'll catch you next time.